we're going to have about manhood. The topic is definitely called isn't automatic. And so, first, I want to let you know I am Derek Durden, your host, and I'm going to lead this conversation. And so, Deacon Dan, if you would go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, good morning and happy New Year's to everybody. My name is Deacon Dan Smith. I'm the husband of Coach Deborah D. Smith, uh, retired law enforcement officer after 40 years, but also has picked up two different businesses. We have four children, three boys, one girl, and seven grands. But, and I am the chairman of my deacon board at my church. But, life is great, and I love doing this. And good morning.
Thank you for the introduction, Deacon Dan. Coach Wilborn, if you would please introduce yourself.
Happy New Year to everyone. My name is Coach Dr. Kevin Wilborn. I am a athletic coach, also an author of 5 books. I'm a military veteran, Army military veteran, retiree of 24 years, also an educator and a motivational speaker. And I have 3 young men, ranges ages 18 to 37. And I'm just happy to be here, with these guys. I love doing this, love putting out information and, talking about the different subjects and things that, we're getting ready to jump into. So I just want to say, Happy New Year to everybody, and I'm ready to do this. Let's go.
And we have none other than Pastor Jermaine Watkins. If you would please introduce yourself to the Build Your Best Life family.
Absolutely, man. I was just looking at Dr. Wilborn's his photo in the background and had all of his degrees. Oh my goodness, like a thermometer. But listen, I'm grateful to be here. And as everybody said, Happy New Year to each and every one of you watching, and to the fellow guests on the program today. Pastor Jermaine Watkins. I'm a pastor at Christ Community Church in Nassau, Bahamas. Formerly pastored in Charleston, South Carolina, and really, I love God, and I love the people of God. I love serving the people of God, and so this is yet another opportunity to serve God's people. And right now, I'm in Barcelona, Spain. So I'm grateful that we're able to do this from anywhere in the world.
Thanks for that wonderful introduction. If you would, we're going to dive right into a question that I really want to start off with. If you would, Deacon Dan, please tell us your definition of manhood.
Manhood is when you have respect, responsibility for others. You have arrived at a place where there's no more excuses. You might have been by mistake. Well, a child is coming to play, or family crisis, or something like that. But that's when manhood kicks in. When you're responsible for someone's health, or welfare, or well-being.
If you would, Coach Wilborn, please provide us your definition of manhood.
Okay, my definition of manhood is when it's time for you to step up. And, I don't want to use the same words that Deacon Dan used, but responsibility is a big part of manhood. And knowing that you can strive in certain situations, accepting consequences for various things that come your way. And, being a leader, taking the initiative to step up and taking care, like I say, certain situations. Manhood is a very wide word. I mean, because a lot of things that, you can do to define manhood, but until you get placed in a situation where you have to, step up and be a provider, be a leader, and, make sure, you have a healthy family and stuff like that, then manhood comes into play.
Great response. I think that that definition of manhood is kind of going to be repetitive because that is really the foundation, responsibility, and really holding your position. But Pastor Jermaine, maybe you can give us a different insight on what manhood means to you.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that has been said, just in terms of responsibility, in terms of development. But I'm going to draw from 1 Kings chapter 2, and David is about to die, and he's talking to his son Solomon, and this is what he says. He's saying he's about to die. He says, "Be strong and show yourself a man." He's telling Solomon, "You need to be a man," and then he says, "And keep the charge of the Lord your God, walking in his ways and keeping his statutes and his commandments." I think being a man is just as David said, walking in the way of the Lord, um, keeping the Lord's commandments, his statutes, and taking charge. It says keep charge, right? It's taking charge, and that's that same level of responsibility that we already spoke about. But it's showing yourself a man is being who God has called you to be and doing what God has called you to do.
Right.
Right, spot on. I mean, the definition of manhood is so consistent between this group. And so let's take it from a situation that we all can relate to. Coach Wilborn,
Yo,
what is a personal experience where you realized that you had to step up and become a man?
well, you know what? It's funny that that you said that about step up and becoming a man. A lot of people seem to think that becoming a man has an age, and becoming a man really does not have an age. That's what society put on everyone. Okay, you're 21, then you're a man. You're 18, then you're a man. I don't agree with that. I agree with if you're put into a situation, you have to provide, you have to step up, you have to deal with certain things, then you become a man. I became a man at a young age. My father, my mother, my mother and father, they were there for me, but they worked so much that I did not see them a whole lot, while I was coming up. So I took it upon myself to go out and do a whole lot of things myself. Like whenever I wanted something that I know that I could not afford, I had to go out there and I had to work. I had to go out there and do the best I could to raise money to do whatever I needed to do. And I thought that, when I did that and I was coming back, giving money to my siblings and, people like that needed money, that put me into a man position. So my first taste of becoming a man was pretty much when I was like almost 13 or 14 years old, because I knew that if I wanted something and I wanted to, get it on my own and not have to rely on someone else, I went out and I did it myself. So that was my first instance of becoming a man. That I felt like I was becoming a man.
That definitely is something that happens a lot, and so that experience is probably something that somebody that's watching can relate to. Pastor Jermaine, could you please give us your personal experience of when you realized you had to become a man?
Yeah, I think for me, I would say my father from a young age was preparing me to become a man, and I didn't even recognize it, in terms of the responsibility that he had given me, in terms of helping me to figure out through college and just growing up, right? Like, and I think that's important as parents and fathers, that we teach and we instruct our children and prepare them to become men. So I believe that was a part of it for me, that I was being prepared. Like my parents, they told me, like, we're preparing for you to leave. Like, you're not staying here. There's a responsibility that you're gonna have in life, that you're gonna have to take on, and we're preparing you for it. And so I think for me, when that hit, was the first time I got a bill in my name. When the bill and the rent and the lease was in my name. And uh, you know it's the things that you take for granted as a child mentally, as coach said, that it's not about age, is when you take that responsibility on. And so even though I was in college and I had done other things, still that was paid for by my parents, that was taken care of by other people. But for the first time, when the bill came in and said Jermaine Watkins on it, that let me know that I was now responsible for not only myself, but the family I was cultivating as a result of that as well. And so for me, it's when responsibility came and my name was on it. Um, and so for me, that was a eye opener. Like, this isn't mama's house. This isn't my parents' phone. This isn't my parents' bill. It's my bill. It's my responsibility. It's my family, and I have to take responsibility for it. And so for me, that was an eye opener. It's like, wow, it's in my name. It's in my name. It's in my name. I'm the man.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's
Yeah,
great.
for sure. Because when them bills gonna come every month, regardless whether you're a man or not. Once they come, your name they come.
Can I tell you this? And since then, the bills have not stopped. It has not.
Yes, sir. So another great question that we need to tackle is, why do men never mature? Deacon Dan, can you start us off on that one?
You see, why do men never mature, huh? Well, some men never mature because they're protected from consequences too long. When someone, I guess, always rescue you, like your parents, a partner, or a system, you really never develop responsibility, those muscles. Confidence become what would I want to say, an enemy of growth. And others avoid, you can't avoid maturity because this requires accountability, discipline, humility. And it's easy way to say, distract, blame others, or non-responsibility than to confront weaknesses. Maturity demands ownership, and ownership is uncomfortable. So that's some of the reasons. That's why I look at some of it. And then I looked at the scripture where it says, Proverbs 22:3, the prudent never see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. So maturity comes from ownership, not age.
It's a good word. That's a good word. Coach Wilburn, can you follow up with that? What is your response to the question?
Okay, my response to that question is, in a lot of cases, they don't want to grow up. They're set in their ways. They're to the point where no one is, and it shouldn't have to force them to grow up to become a man or, to be mature. My thing is, a lot of times they're scared. They don't really know. They wasn't mentored or girded up to learn, how to become a man. So a lot of times, and for anyone that's watching, I can't blame, the parents or whatever. You can't blame that. A lot of times, society blame parents. Well, it's because of the parent, why this kid is not doing this, they're not doing that. And that's not true, because you have a lot of great parents out there that's doing the best they can, trying to raise their young men or young women and, try to make sure that these young men are mature. But, when they don't have that mentorship, they don't have that guardianship, they don't have someone to show them and teach them, then that maturity is stagnant. They don't mature. But I would say, for me, I think that, dealing with thousands of kids, I've seen it. A lot of kids are either they're not getting the foundation, the principles, or what they need to do in order to be mature, or a lot of times, they just don't want to do it, or they're just scared to do it. So that's what that's my take on that.
Pastor Jermaine, why do men never mature?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the responses have been sound. I'm listening to responses. I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. That's how I would respond as well. But I wanted to add something as well, because the topic is manhood is not automatic, and so by even the topic, we're letting it's saying and implying that it's not something that just happens. So some people don't mature as men, and so some people do. And so I think it comes down to a choice. I think it comes down to a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Some people never choose to mature, and like Deacon Dan said, in terms of responsibility, they choose not to take the responsibility. They choose not to grow up. They choose not to understand their role in society. And I think, as Dr. Wilburn said, you can't blame someone else at a certain point in your life. It's you have not taken the choice. Whether you're afraid, whether you don't have the mentor, whether you didn't have a father, at some point you have to make a decision that I'm going to show myself a man. I'm going to become a man, and I'm going to do the things that men do. I'm going to become everything that I'm supposed to be. And I think it's a choice. And so the reality is this: that also means that it's not a default. And so without the choice, there's a lack of maturity, because maturity is a choice that you have to choose, because maturity takes time, maturity takes wisdom, it takes practice, it takes discipline. And some people never make the decision, never make the choice to become mature.
Yeah, he's definitely right about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a powerful statement.
Yes.
Very powerful statement. So let's move on, Deacon Dan. How has your father or the father figure in your life played a role in your growth in becoming a man?
Well, my father, one of the things he did, he taught me how to, do different things. He showed me what is the responsibility of a man who's taking care of his family, for one. And I watched him consistent, and my father's work ethics. He always worked 2 jobs, regardless. His integrity and his leadership. Even in the absence of a lesson or form, many men become intentionally fathers because they lack one. Manhood is often shaped by deciding what kind of man you will or want to be. But learning from a father, he showed me that the main responsibility is to take care of your family, take care of the responsibilities, the bills, and all. And like in Proverbs, it says, listen, my son, to your father instructions, and do not forsake your mother teaching. So those words that stuck into me, and in reflection, I know God's value male guidance, whether a man has a strong father figure or not. Wisdom can still gain through observation, mentors, and God's word. Even absent teacher lessons about the differently, to do differently, God often uses experience to shape men when examples fall short. So, that's something that we got to go with. Look at how God teaches us also. So I'm looking at all these different things, but my father was one, and follow the teaching of what God taught me through that Bible.
Yes, sir, man. That is a powerful statement, man. It's such a thing where in today's time, fathers get the ones that are actually there get the credit that they deserve, and so I think that that light should be shined on a little more. Coach Wilburn,
Yeah.
what father figure impact you growing up and becoming the man that you are today?
Okay. Are we talking about the same question that Deacon Dan just answered, because it was stagnant? I couldn't actually hear what you were saying.
Yeah, Derek, you was getting cut out in and out.
Yes, same question.
Okay. All right. Got you. Didn't want to say something else, especially not with that's the question. Okay, as far as that there, like I said, from the beginning, my father, he was, I wasn't, he was there. He lived in the house with us, wasn't present that much because he was always working. And I think my father had like 3 jobs for real, because he would be dog tired when he came home. But what he taught me was that, be a leader. His most important words to me was leadership. Be accountable, make sure you are able to lead yourself and have integrity. And that's something that I always stick with me, whenever we had our little chats or whatever, because I used to actually go with him, to a couple of his jobs. That's why I know he worked a whole lot, because he would work in the morning. And then when he got off of that job and I got out of school, he would have us come over to work where he was. And we worked several different places. And whenever we got time, we sat down and we talked. I used to, I was one of those inquisitive kids. I always want to know why you do this, why you do that, in the whole 9 yards. And my father was always telling me that, times are changing and things like that. And he didn't want me to have to, do the things that he was doing, as far as work. He wanted me to get an education and be able to get, a better job than what he did. But he gave me principles and things to lead me in that way. And he was always talking about leadership and accountability and being able to lead myself, and have integrity and make sure that I stand on those principles alone. So if I ever, raise a family or whatever, I can pass that down, hand that down, whether I had sons or daughters or whatever. So my main thing, but that what he taught me was, be a great leader and, and accept responsibility and make sure whatever happens, when consequences come your way, be able to deal with those consequences, based on the choices that you make. So that's pretty much, what he told me in terms of, becoming a man.
Great word, great word. Pastor Jermaine, if you would tell us how your father or father figure in your life played a role in you becoming the man that you are today.
Yeah, I often say this when it comes to my father, that my father is the single greatest spiritual influence in my life. The single greatest spiritual influence in my life. And I wouldn't be the man who I am today if it were not for my father instilling in me biblical principles, morals, and a desire for the things of the Lord. And so I would say this, that for me, that was the most important thing that I know that he would hang his head on, is that he left a spiritual and a godly heritage. And I think back, and I look back, and we didn't have a lot. We didn't have everything that I wanted. We had everything that we needed. But my father laid a foundation for me to let me know what it meant for Christ to be the head of the house and what it meant to have a home. And so for me, that has been the greatest influence that my father's had in my life, in terms of laying the spiritual legacy, laying the spiritual foundation for who I am. He didn't force me to be a preacher or even encourage me to be a preacher. He just lived his life. And that influence has been profound in my life. It's profound in my children's life. It's profound in our family's life. And to be honest with you, for me, it now is the thing that I want my children to have. I want my children to say, when there's a casket and I'm laying there, I want them to say that their father laid a godly heritage for them. I didn't buy them everything. They didn't get everything that they wanted. They didn't, I didn't take them on every trip that they wanted to go on, but I left a godly heritage. And so for me, that's a part of God saying, well done, is me laying that foundation for my family.
For generational, just that generational impact is so important. That's why we have a generation right now where the level of manhood it seems like it's continuously decreasing. And so Women are being the heads of household. They're raising these young men, and then that's just really compounding on top of all the things. What would be the advice that you would give your 18-year-old self?
Uh, I would say, my 18-year-old self was in the military. I went to the Army, 17 going on 18 years old. So, it's kind of hard to answer that question because I thought that I was where I should have been because the streets was not great to me. And what I mean by that, it was very, very hard. I grew up in an urban neighborhood. Things were tough. I wanted a whole lot that I could not get. I didn't have money to go to college. My family couldn't afford. My father and, mother couldn't afford to send me to college. So, I was in the military and I learned a whole lot. A lot of people probably beg to differ, but I feel like, in the military, they taught me a whole lot of things. They taught me about responsibility, accountability, leadership. They taught me, how to, stand up in different situations and the whole nine. Because at 18 years old, until I retired, I was in the military. So I would say that I went into the right direction at the time that I did when I was 18 years old. And the advice that I would give myself back then is you just, have a open mind, listen to experienced people that has your best interest, and just, piggyback off of, the great things that you hear, the great things that you're seeing, and always put God first, no matter what the situation is. Always put God first. If you got God in the mix, you're gonna come out all right.
Good word, good word. Pastor Watkins, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, that question probably was the one that caused me to think the most. Because what would I tell my 18-year-old self? Knowing my own journey, there's a lot that I would tell myself. But I would tell myself it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. That life is going to come at you, and life will have challenges, but it's going to be okay. There's certain situations that you may not have been taught exactly what to do, but build your life on principles, build your life on precepts, build your life on God's word. Because if you have precepts and principles, no matter what the situation is, you're going to know what to do in that situation. And so build your life on precepts and principles. And I would tell myself, in the end, it's going to be okay. And if it's not okay, that means it's not the end. In the end, it's going to be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. And so keep your head up, keep going. You were graced for this, and God is with you. And so I think men need that encouragement to know that God is with them, that despite the obstacles that they may face, that if they build their lives on precepts and principles, God has the answer for every problem that you'll face, every situation that you'll face. Just keep your eyes on Him. Don't turn to the right or the left, and it's going to be okay.
Yes, sir. Y'all know I always like to throw something out there from left field or something that wasn't planned. But I feel like this is a question that needs to be answered. In today's time, social media gives us all the rules, or we have all the ideas of what a man should do. But what does a man look like? What does manhood look like in reference to a woman? If you would, Deacon Dan, you can start us off with that one.
What did a man? A man two different between a woman. But one, a man has to recognize that he, as God said, is the head of the, as God's the head of our life, we are the head of our family life. So he got to recognize that. He got to recognize a man has to provide for his family, give them what they need. And also, they're going to give some of the stuff they, might want. We always cover their needs first because God going to give us our needs. So we should cover our family needs. And the woman, she's our helpmate. As God says, she's our helpmate. So, but all in together, all in one, that man's the head of the household. And he got to do what needs to be done so that his family can be successful in what they're doing. And learning and loving and all of God's, ways. You got to react to that. So that's what I want, that's my kick on that.
But you can also tell us about what you would tell your 18-year-old self, since I don't think I gave you the opportunity to answer that question.
No, you didn't. What would I tell my 18-year-old? Well, I guess one, let me see. You changed my thought a minute, Derek.
Yes.
I'm gonna get back to it.
Hard question.
Okay, while you getting back to it, I'm gonna come back to you.
I'm ready.
Oh, okay.
I'm ready. Don't rush me off of it. No. What I'll tell my 18-year-old, I like I always told him, I said, first of all, you got to slow it down. You got to think long term. You got to choose discipline over popularity. You got to protect your reputation. You got to build habits before chasing success. Ask for wisdom early. Learn from men who are already where you want to be. But most important, your future is built in ordinary moments, not in big ones. You can handle small responsibility will determine how much trust and opportunity you've given later. So, and just remember, like I say, Ecclesiastes says, remember your creator in the days of your youth before the days of troubles that comes.
Deacon Dan, you always come with the heat, man. I'm never surprised at what you're gonna say. But the reason why I asked that question is because all three of y'all, I believe, are married. And so understanding what manhood looks like in marriage is probably something that needs to be talked about. So Coach Wilburn, what does manhood look like in marriage?
I say manhood look like in marriage is stand on the principles of what God said and stand on the principles of the Bible. I piggyback off of what Coach Dan says in retrospect and respect to what women, do and what men do. I know, the women are nurturers, they take care, a whole lot of emotional things when it comes to the kid, whether it's the son or the daughter or whatever. And I would say that the man in the household, I don't want to say lay down the ground rules or anything like that, but, show them, what discipline, what respect, what leadership, what is it about? Because marriage, it's like a business. It's like a business. The harder you work on it, the more you'll get out of it. What you put into it is what you what you get out of it. And being a man in the house, I'm gonna give you an example. I know, when I was young, I have 6 siblings, and it was like the opposite thing. We were more fear of my mom than we was our dad, because our dad, all he had to do was just look at us and we would straighten up. But mom was the one with the strap. she be the one that be, put the belt to you. So it really depends on, what y'all decide y'all want to do, between, the mother and the father, what's going to be handled in the household, what's not going to be handled in the household. So it varies from family to family and how you want to raise your family, depending on the mother and the father. But I would say, like, the woman is the nurturer, the man provider, guider, and have the backbone, and is the wall. So if anything comes up or whatever, he should be able to step up, take care of whatever it needed to be to be taken care of. So that's what I would say, as far as the marriage thing. People say it's 50-50, but it's 100-100.
There you go.
Word. Teach me something new, man. Teach me something new. I'm trying to learn how to be this husband. I'm trying to get married. So all this is this. I think this really was a selfish question for me to learn some new. But maybe some listeners need there too. Pastor Jermaine, what does manhood look like in marriage?
Yeah, Derek, I'm taking it in as well and learning from these esteemed gentlemen. And and we're always learning, always growing. And I think that's what a man does as well, right? You have to understand that it's a journey and you always have to grow. But when it comes to in a marriage context, I think I'll use 3 or 4 P's, but the first one is understand that you're the priest of the home, that you're the spiritual leader of your home. And so in the context of marriage, you have spiritual responsibility for your family, for your wife and your children, that you're to be the leader, that the loudest spiritual voice in her ear is not the small group leader, the pastor. It's got to be you as the man, that you have to be the spiritual leader as the priest of your home. That means praying with and praying for and praying over all that stuff over your family, opening God's word together, being the priest. And so if that's something that you're not doing as a man, I would encourage you to do so. There's so many resources and tools out there to help you. Just the Bible app has devotionals, has guides, just to help you lead in that way. I would say you are the provider as a husband. As Coach said, that 50-50 thing. Yeah, listen, I understand there's seasons of where someone that may be making more money than others, and I think it's more complicated in this day and age, Derek, than it was back in the day. Dr. Miles Monroe talks about it. He said back in the day it was simple, right? The man went out and brought home the bacon, right? And so it was real simple, and women stayed at home. They knew what their role was, men knew what their role was, and the man was the provider. He would bring home the bacon. Well, in this time and day and age, the women own the pig. So so it's not necessarily 50-50, but understand that your responsibility is the provider. That at the end of the day, the buck stops with you when it comes to provision. Even if your wife may be making money or even making more money, that doesn't take away your responsibility. At the end of the day, it's still your responsibility to make sure that your family is provided for. And the last one is that you're the protector. And so not necessarily from violence, could be, or from some type of threat of some insurrection or whatever the case is. But understand protection from the eye gates, what your wife sees and what she's exposed to. You're the protector in terms of what your children are exposed to. You're the protector in terms of anything in your house that you ought to. Your house ought to be a place where there's safety, where there's peace, and so you have to protect and you have to provide peace to your family and to your wife. And so I would say you are the priest, you're the provider, you're the protector, and you bring peace into that house.
Yes, sir.
Derek, you taking notes? You taking notes?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. So, man, that was very powerful. All three of y'all, man, very informative. I did take notes, which I do. I just showed y'all. But let's cap this off, summarize it, get to some points to bring this to a close. Coach Wilburn,
Yes.
was there anything that we didn't mention or something that you feel is necessary to really add to this conversation? If you would do that, give us your powerful thoughts of closing and also represent for Coach Deborah and her book.
Okay. I would say that, all the guys on here today, they touched on pretty much everything, when it comes to, talking about manhood isn't automatic. But, I would recap and I would say that, guarding the physical, emotional and spiritual safety of a family and their community is a high priority on, manhood isn't, automatic. You should be able to do those things, and that's in becoming a man. You have different jobs, and I'm going to say it's a job because you have to work at it. Nobody has get paid if they ain't working. So it is a job. But at the same time, you learn along the way. You've always learning. I mean, here I am going on 65 years old. I'm still learning things about being a man. So I don't know everything, but I have been in a lot of, situations. I have experienced a whole lot, being the different things that I've, dibbled and dabbled into. And I just know that, you have to make sure, you maintain a healthy family, and mentor the next generation that's coming up. Don't be selfish, because I've had certain people just come up to me and talk to me, don't even know me, but want to sit down and talk to me when I was young. And I sat there and I listened to them and I learned a whole lot of valuable things from them. And also, make sure you get this book right here. This is a roadmap. This is a guide to everything that we be talking about, every second Saturday. I mean, if you have questions, you would definitely get answers out that book. Build Your Best Life from Deborah Smith. Peace.
When you were showing the book, I really was trying to was you showing the book or was you showing your rings? That's what I was really trying to figure out.
I was showing the book.
Oh, okay.
I was actually showing the book.
Oh, okay.
See, but I can't help that the rings pop out. They just pop out. But this book is more important.
I definitely understand that. Pastor Jermaine, your closing thoughts, summarization, closing powerful statement that we need to hear.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to be on today and to have the conversation. I think society is hard on men, and I want to say this, that it's hard being a man. And so I want to pause and just say that if you're struggling with manhood, I understand that it is hard. It is difficult. It is challenging. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of weight and responsibility that comes with being a man. But give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. You're not going to get it right all the time. But as long as you continue to put one foot in front of the other, as long as you continue to choose and make that decision to mature, to grow intentionally every day, to be better today than you were yesterday, be better tomorrow than you were today. Be a student of life.
Yes.
Be a student of God's word. I think those things are impactful for men to understand. Yes, it's not automatic, but it can happen with intentional steps, following God's principles, his precepts, and having a community, right? I think is important to be in spaces like this, where you could talk to people one-on-one, other men that you admire, that have gone before you, that have the life or the family that you would want to have, that you want to find someone that you can latch onto and say, pour into me, teach me, show me, talk to me, help me. Because I believe mentorship and community is important for men. That we weren't meant to do this in isolation, We weren't meant to figure it out alone, but we're to walk in and be with other people in community. So I would just encourage you to continue to grow, surround yourself with the right people that are going to speak into you, that are going to pour into you, and see the king that is inside of you and help bring that forth. And let's grow together.
I'm proud of y'all. Deacon Dan, give us your
Yes, sir.
final words, your powerful thoughts. And also, we know you got to represent for the lady of the hour, Coach Deborah Smith. Nobody.
You're right. You're right. Let me represent this first. This book is awesome. Take your time to read it. I've had clients that I work for that purchased the book from me, not only for their grandsons, but their granddaughters. Be Your Best Life. It got great nuggets, and it's a good book. It's a great book. Read it. But I'm gonna give you my takeaway on this. Manhood manhood is not a title you claim. It's a life you live. It's not a title you claim, but it's a life that you live. Every day that you either growing into a man, you're meant to be staying comfortable where you are. But I like this scripture I read through 1 Corinthians 16:13. Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. God calls, to manhood includes faith, strength, and courage. Acting like a man means standing firm in value, taking responsibility for actions, growing spiritually, mentally, and emotional. So that's my takeaway. If you do these things, you grow anything with what Dr. Wilburn and Pastor Watson has says, you will be successful in what you're trying to be, a successful man, husband, father, mentor, and just have a great life.
Yes, sir.
Manhood, you have to be intentional. It just doesn't. Manhood is not automatic. You have to be very intentional in the process of becoming a man. Second is manhood is a process. Goes on. It's not a one-time destination. It's something that you continuously strive to achieve. And the last one is just build a community. Have some good men around you. Because without that example, you're really just going at it on your own, and that will not lead you to manhood as fast as we need to become men. And so this has been another episode of Conversation with the Gods. I want to thank every listener, every person who participated, and even Coach Deborah for even opening up this platform to each and every one of us. And so next month, second Saturday, same time, we'll be right here with Conversation with the Gods. If you would, please tune in.